Keanu Reeves was just a young boy when he first started wearing the necklace. It wasn't anything fancy. It didn't shine or sparkle like gold. It was a thin silver chain, with a small charm at the center, a smooth stone wrapped in metal. But to Keanu, it was the most precious thing he owned. The necklace had been a gift from his grandmother. She had given it to him when he was very small, right before he started school. She had held it in her old wrinkled hands and placed it gently around his neck. "This is for protection," she whispered to him, "and for love." Keanu had looked up at her and nodded. He believed his grandmother was one of the strongest people he knew. She had raised him through hard times, helped take care of him when his father left, and stayed by his side when things got tough. The necklace reminded him of her strength, her love, and her words. Every morning, Keanu put it on before leaving for school. And every night, he carefully took it off and placed it beside his bed. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a part of him. At first, no one noticed it. He was quiet in class, sat in the back, did his work, and went home. But as he got older, other kids started paying attention. One day during recess, a group of boys from another class came up to him. One of them pointed at Keanu's chest and said, "Hey, what's that? A girl's necklace?" The others laughed. Keanu didn't answer. He simply looked at them and then looked away. That made them laugh more. "You wear that like a baby," another one shouted. Keanu felt his face grow hot, but he didn't take the necklace off. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked away. That was only the beginning. After that day, more students noticed the necklace. They started calling him names, soft, weird, or girly. Some whispered behind his back when he walked into the classroom. Others laughed loudly when he passed them in the hallway. A few even tried to grab the necklace while pretending to bump into him. Keanu stayed quiet. He didn't shout. He didn't complain. He didn't go to the teachers. He didn't even tell his grandmother what was happening. He just kept wearing the necklace, day after day. Some of the teachers saw the teasing, but they said nothing. Maybe they thought it was harmless. Maybe they didn't care. Keanu never knew. All he knew was that every time he walked through the school gates, he had to be ready for stares, for laughter, for unkind words. Still, he refused to take off the necklace. He thought about it sometimes. He thought maybe life would be easier if he just left it at home. Maybe the bullies would forget about him. Maybe the laughter would stop. But then he'd remember the day his grandmother gave it to him. He'd remember how she smiled, how warm her hands felt when she placed it on him, and how safe he felt wearing it. The necklace made him feel strong, even when the world around him was loud and cruel. It reminded him who he was, not who the other kids said he was, but who he believed he was inside. Someone who could stay true to himself. Someone who didn't need to be loud to be brave. Keanu didn't have many friends, but he had his books, his thoughts, and his quiet strength. Sometimes, while sitting alone during lunch, he would touch the necklace and whisper, "It's okay." He told himself that it wouldn't always be like this. One day, people would understand. One day, they would see what he saw. He didn't know it at the time, but he was right. The necklace, though small and simple, had become a symbol of love, of memory, of silent courage. And though the other kids only saw it as a strange thing, something to mock, Keanu held it like armor. Even when the world tried to push him into silence, into shame, he stood firm, not with loud words or angry fists, but with quiet belief in something that mattered to him. It was that quiet belief that would one day inspire others. But for now, he was just a boy, sitting in the corner of the playground, hand on his necklace, heart full of quiet fire, waiting for the day the world would finally see him for who he truly was. Keanu Reeves walked into the school hallway like he always did. His backpack hanging low, his head slightly down, and the silver necklace resting gently on his chest. He wasn't trying to show it off. He just wore it because it meant something to him. But that day, things were different. As he moved through the crowd of noisy students, a voice called out from behind, loud and mocking. "Hey, look, it's the boy with the necklace again." Keanu turned slightly, only with his eyes. A group of boys stood near the lockers, laughing and pointing at him. "Is that your girlfriend's necklace?" one of them shouted. Another said, No, maybe it's his mom's. Or maybe he just wants to be a girl." The others burst out laughing. Keanu felt his cheeks burn, but he didn't stop walking. He said nothing. His steps stayed calm, even though his chest was tight. In the classroom, it didn't get better. During lunch break, one of the boys dropped his pencil near Keanu's desk and pretended to reach for it, but his real goal was to touch the necklace. His fingers brushed against the charm. "What is this made of?" he asked loudly, grabbing the attention of nearby students. "Plastic?" Keanu moved his chair back. He didn't want trouble. But the boy kept going. "Why do you wear it every day? Are you scared without it? Is it your magic necklace?" More laughter followed. Some of the students didn't laugh, but they also didn't speak up. They looked at Keanu with pity, some with curiosity, some with discomfort. But no one said, "Stop, it hurt." Of course it did. But Keanu didn't cry. He never cried at school. He saved his tears for when he was alone. At home, in his room, he would take off the necklace and hold it in his hand. Sometimes he would whisper, "Why is it so hard to be yourself?" He didn't want to fight anyone. He didn't want to make excuses or beg for kindness. He just wanted to be left alone, to be allowed to wear the one thing that connected him to someone he loved, without being laughed at. The worst part was that the bullying didn't stop with the necklace. Some kids made fun of his clothes. Some made fun of his soft voice or the way he didn't talk much. Others just didn't understand him. He was different. He didn't try to be cool. He didn't try to fit in. He liked books, quiet places, and thinking. But that wasn't normal for a boy his age, and the kids at school made sure he knew that. One day, in the school cafeteria, things went a bit too far. Keanu was sitting at a corner table, eating quietly. A group of boys walked by. One of them bumped into Keanu hard on purpose. Keanu's tray tipped, and some of his food fell on the table. The boy leaned down, looked at the necklace again, and said in a mocking voice, "Still wearing your baby chain? You must really like being weird." Keanu looked up, his eyes steady. He didn't shout. He didn't insult the boy back. He simply said, "It's not a baby chain. It's a gift." The boy blinked. For a moment, he was confused. But then he laughed and walked away, saying, "Whatever, freak." Keanu cleaned up the mess and sat back down. He didn't eat much after that. But deep down, a small voice inside him whispered, "You did the right thing," because Keanu could have taken off the necklace. He could have hidden it under his shirt. He could have tried to change the way he talked or walked or looked. But he didn't. He kept showing up day after day, exactly as he was. And while most people didn't notice, some did. A girl who sat 2 rows behind him in class often looked at him with curious eyes. She never laughed when others did. A boy in gym class who never spoke much either once gave Keanu a small nod when the teasing got loud. These little moments gave Keanu strength. Not much, but enough. At home, he still didn't tell his grandmother. He didn't want her to worry. But sometimes, when she kissed his forehead and said, "You're my brave boy," he wanted to break down and cry in her arms. But he held it in. Because he believed that staying quiet and true was stronger than shouting and pretending. Every time he looked at the necklace in the mirror, he reminded himself why he wore it. It was love. It was memory. It was his choice. And no amount of laughter could take that away from him. Keanu Reeves sat on the edge of his bed, holding the necklace in his hand. The silver chain felt warm from his skin. He stared at the little charm that hung from it, the one his grandmother had given him so many years ago. He could still hear her voice in his head, soft and loving, saying, "This is for protection and for love." He had never taken the necklace off in public, not once. Not even when people laughed at him. Not even when bullies tried to grab it. Not even when teachers looked the other way. But now, as he sat there in the quiet of his room, he started to ask himself something he hadn't really asked before. Why do they hate it so much? What was it about a simple necklace that made them so angry, so cruel? He didn't have the answer. But deep down, he knew it wasn't just about the necklace. It was about what the necklace meant. It meant something personal. Something they didn't understand. At school, Keanu didn't speak much. He wasn't the type to run after crowds, play loud games, or tell jokes. He liked thinking. He liked stories. He liked watching the world quietly, the way his grandmother had taught him. But kids didn't see that as strength. They saw it as weakness. And that necklace, they treated it like a target. One day in class, the teacher asked the students to share something personal. It could be anything: a family photo, a story, or an object that mattered to them. Keanu's heart beat fast. He knew what he would show, but he also knew what might come with it. Whispers, laughs, maybe worse. Still, when his turn came, Keanu stood up. He walked slowly to the front of the class, reached into his shirt, and pulled the necklace out where everyone could see it. The room got quiet. "This," he said softly, holding the charm between his fingers, "was given to me by my grandmother. She raised me when things were hard. She told me this would protect me." He paused. A few students shifted in their seats. "Wear it because it reminds me that I'm not alone," he continued. "Even when people make fun of me, even when they laugh, I still wear it, because it's part of who I am." Silence filled the room. The teacher gave a small nod. "Thank you, Keanu," she said. Keanu returned to his seat. Nobody laughed. Not right away, at least. Some students looked at him differently. A few looked down, maybe even feeling a little ashamed. But not everyone changed. Later that day, in the hallway, one of the usual bullies walked by and smirked. "Wow, touching story," he said in a mocking tone. "Did your grandma give you a magic wand too?" Keanu didn't answer. He just kept walking. Still, something felt different. Telling his story had opened a door, not just for others, but for himself. For the first time, he didn't feel small or scared about the necklace. He felt proud. The more he thought about it, the more he realized the necklace wasn't just about his grandmother. It was about his whole identity. His quiet nature. His way of seeing the world. His strength to be different. People were often scared of different things. They didn't understand them, so they made fun of them. That's what had happened with him. They didn't understand why he was quiet. They didn't understand why he wore a necklace with no fashion, no brand, no meaning to them. So they teased him. But Keanu was learning something powerful. Just because they didn't understand it didn't mean it was wrong. He started walking with his head held a little higher. He still didn't speak much, but when he did, his voice had more calm, more certainty. He didn't try to hide the necklace anymore. He didn't tuck it in when bullies passed. He let it show. And little by little, things began to shift. A younger boy in the library one day whispered to him, "I think your necklace is cool." Another student, a quiet girl who sat alone at lunch like Keanu did, gave him a small smile when he passed by. People who once ignored him now looked at him with curiosity or even respect. He hadn't fought back with fists or loud words. He had simply stayed true to himself. And by doing that, he was starting to teach others something without even trying. The necklace, once a reason for teasing, was now becoming something else. A quiet message. A sign of courage. And for Keanu, a reminder that sometimes being yourself was the bravest thing of all. It was a warm afternoon, and Keanu Reeves was walking alone across the schoolyard. The sun was shining, birds were flying above, but he didn't notice any of that. His mind was heavy. He had learned how to ignore the laughter, how to stay calm when others mocked him. But some days were harder than others. That day, he thought maybe he'd just sit in the shade and read. Maybe he could have one quiet lunch without trouble. He found a tree at the corner of the yard and sat down, opening his worn book. But before he could read more than a line, shadows fell across the page. He looked up. 4 boys stood in front of him. They were older, bigger, and stronger. Keanu had seen them before. They didn't usually bother him, but today, they looked ready. One of the boys crossed his arms and said, "You're that weird kid with the necklace, right?" Keanu didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silver chain around his neck was shining in the light, resting clearly on his shirt. They all saw it. Another boy laughed. "Why do you even wear that?" Trying to look special? Keanu stood up slowly. He wasn't scared, but he wasn't looking for a fight either. He just wanted to explain, maybe just maybe, they'd understand. "It belonged to my grandmother," he said, softly but clearly. "She gave it to me when I was small. It means something to me." The tallest boy stepped closer. "Yeah, and what's it gonna do? Protect you from us?" The others laughed again. Keanu's hand went to the necklace. His fingers touched the charm gently. He could feel his heartbeat. "I wear it because I remember her when I do," he said. "It reminds me to be strong, even when people don't understand me." The laughter stopped. For a second, none of the boys spoke. Something about the way Keanu said those words, it wasn't loud or angry, but it was firm. There was something real in his voice. Something that didn't back down. The leader of the group tilted his head, almost confused. He stared at Keanu, like he was trying to understand him for the first time. Another boy muttered, "Whatever, man," and turned away. One by one, the others followed. No punches, no pushing, no more jokes. They just walked off. Keanu stayed under the tree for a while. His book lay on the grass, forgotten. He wasn't thinking about what he'd just said. He was thinking about how it felt to stand his ground, to speak his truth, and to see that even the worst bullies didn't have the power to shake it. Later that day, something unexpected happened. A younger boy, maybe 10 years old, came up to Keanu in the hallway. His voice was nervous. "I saw what you did at lunch," the boy said. "You didn't let them take it from you." Keanu nodded. The boy looked down at his own hand. He was holding a ring on a thin string. "My dad gave me this, but I don't wear it at school. I was scared they'd make fun of me too." Keanu looked at him kindly and said, "You don't have to be scared. If it means something to you, that's enough." The boy smiled just a little, but it was the kind of smile that meant something had changed. He walked away holding the ring close to his chest, and Keanu watched him go. That moment stayed with Keanu. It made him realize something important. This necklace, this simple chain, wasn't just helping him anymore. It was helping others too. His quiet strength gave others the courage to be themselves, without shouting, without pretending, and maybe, just maybe, the people who teased him didn't really hate him. Maybe they were just afraid of something they didn't understand. Or maybe they were never taught to value quiet things like love, memories, or meaning, whatever. The reason, Keanu now understood that he had a choice. He could hide, or he could continue to wear the necklace with pride. He chose the second. From that day on, when someone looked at his necklace with confusion or judgment, Keanu didn't look away. He met their eyes, calm, brave, still. And slowly, the world around him began to shift. Keanu sat on the school bench alone, like he usually did during lunch. But that day, something felt different. He had spoken up the day before. He had told the older boys what the necklace meant to him, and they had walked away. No fight. Number. Shouting, just silence. That silence had meant more than 100 words. It had shown him that truth was stronger than teasing. Now, as he sat under the sun, the necklace resting quietly against his shirt, he felt a kind of peace. Maybe not everyone understood him, but at least he understood himself. That was a start. He looked up when he heard footsteps. It was the same younger boy who had come to him in the hallway. This time, the boy wore the ring his father had given him. It hung proudly from a black thread around his neck. Keanu smiled gently. The boy smiled back and sat beside him without asking. "I wore it today," the boy said, holding the ring between his fingers. "I see that," Keanu replied. "I was scared," the boy admitted. "But then I thought, if you can wear yours, maybe I can too." Keanu didn't say much, just nodded. But inside, his heart felt full. Something about those words touched him deeply. Without even trying, he had given someone else courage. A small, simple act, just wearing a necklace, had made a difference. From that day, more small things began to happen. A girl who never spoke much started sitting near Keanu in class. She had a charm bracelet she always kept hidden under her sleeve. One day, she rolled her sleeve up a little more. She didn't say anything, but she didn't hide it either. That small act meant she felt safe, just a little. Another time, a quiet boy with a stutter raised his hand in class for the first time. After school, he walked up to Keanu and said, "People, they look at you and they listen." Keanu blinked. He didn't think anyone really paid attention to him. He never tried to be noticed. He just wanted to be left alone. But now he was beginning to see his silence, his calm, his way of staying true to himself. It did speak. Louder than he ever thought it could. The necklace, once a target for bullies, had become something else. It became a sign. Not just of Keanu's strength, but of strength in others, of kindness, of quiet resistance. That didn't mean the teasing was gone. Some boys still made rude comments. A few students still rolled their eyes or laughed. But it didn't bother Keanu the way it used to. Because now he knew something they didn't. Words only had power if you believed them. And he no longer believed the lies others tried to place on him. One afternoon, as school ended, Keanu walked out of the building with his backpack on and the necklace shining in the soft light. A teacher called his name. He turned around. It was Mr. Langley, the art teacher. He was kind, older, with gray hair and soft eyes. "I've noticed your necklace," Mr. Langley said. "It's simple, beautiful." Keanu didn't know what to say. No adult had ever said anything like that to him. "I see the way you carry yourself," the teacher added. "Some kids try to hide who they are. You don't. That's rare." Keanu smiled, just a small, thankful smile. "Keep being yourself," Mr. Langley said before walking away. "People notice more than you think." Those words stayed in Keanu's mind long after he reached home. People notice more than you think. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't about being loud or popular or perfect. Maybe it was about being real and standing by what mattered to you, no matter what others said. At home, he sat on his bed and took off the necklace like he always did before sleeping. He held it gently in his hand and whispered, "Thank you." Not just to his grandmother, who had given him the necklace, but also to himself for not giving up, for not hiding, for not changing just to please others. He didn't know what the future would hold. He didn't know if people would ever fully understand him. But now he knew one thing for sure. He had already made a difference, and he would keep doing it. One quiet day at a time, Keanu Reeves walked through the school hallway with steady steps. His necklace, once the reason kids mocked him, now hung freely on his chest. He didn't try to hide it anymore. In fact, he didn't even think about it the way he used to. It had become a part of him, just like his voice, his eyes, or his heart, but others still noticed it. Some stared quietly. Some smiled. And a few even stopped in to ask, "Why do you wear it?" They didn't say it to laugh at him anymore. They really wanted to know. Keanu always gave the same answer. "It means something to me." And for many, that was enough. One day during break, Keanu was sitting under the same tree where he often read his books. He looked up and noticed two boys walking toward him. They weren't the usual bullies. In fact, he barely knew them. "Hey," one of them said, "can we sit here?" Keanu nodded. They sat beside him in silence for a moment. Then the other boy spoke up. "You don't really care what people think of you, huh?" Keanu thought for a moment, then answered, "I care about some people, but not the ones who laugh." "For no reason," the first boy smiled. "That's cool. I wish I could be like that. I always feel like I need to act a certain way." Keanu looked at him and said, "You don't. Just be who you are." Those simple words meant more than anyone could see. And slowly, stories like this kept happening. One morning, a girl named Mia came to class wearing a bright, colorful headscarf. She had never worn it to school before. Some kids looked surprised. One or two giggled under their breath. But Mia sat down calmly, her eyes full of quiet pride. Keanu noticed it, and he smiled at her. She smiled back. Later that day, Mia walked up to him and said, "I was scared this morning. But when I saw your necklace, I remembered how you never take it off. That gave me courage." Keanu didn't know what to say. He simply nodded, but inside he felt something warm and strong. His choice to stay true to himself was helping others find their own voice. Even the teachers had started to notice. In art class, Mr. Langley asked the students to draw something that represented who they were. Some kids drew their families. Others drew their pets or favorite places. Keanu drew his necklace, simple, soft lines, nothing fancy. But in the center, he drew a heart behind it. When Mr. Langley saw it, he said quietly, "That's powerful." Keanu. Another teacher, Miss Allen, once said in front of the class, "Sometimes, the quietest people teach us the loudest lessons." Many students turned to look at Keanu, and for the first time, he didn't feel shy. He felt seen. It wasn't just about the necklace anymore. It was about everything that came with it. His calm nature, his steady heart, his quiet strength. The school was changing, little by little. Students started wearing things that mattered to them. One boy wore a shirt from his village back home. A girl brought a hand-drawn photo of her family to place in her locker. Another student carried a small wooden charm on her bag, a gift from her father who had passed away. Nobody laughed at them. Maybe a few still whispered, but most didn't. The air felt different now. Like it was okay to be yourself. Keanu never gave big speeches. He never raised his voice. But he showed something important by living it every day. That true courage isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about staying true to who you are, even when others don't understand. One afternoon, as Keanu walked home, he saw the younger boy from before, the one with the ring his father had given him. The boy was playing with some friends, laughing, his necklace bouncing around his neck as he ran. He looked happy, free, and fearless. Keanu smiled and kept walking. He didn't need to be thanked. He didn't need applause. Just seeing others feel strong was enough. At home, he sat in his room, looking out the window as the sun dipped low in the sky. He touched his necklace and whispered softly, "You were right, Grandma. This really does protect me." Not with magic, but with meaning. Years passed, but Keanu Reeves never stopped wearing the necklace. It had become more than just a gift from his grandmother. It was part of his story now, part of who he was. He was no longer a little boy sitting alone under a tree, hoping people would leave him alone. Now he was growing up. He was taller, stronger, and even more calm than before. The teasing had stopped long ago. People didn't laugh at his necklace anymore. In fact, many had forgotten they ever did. But Keanu remembered. He remembered every moment he was pushed, mocked, or laughed at. He remembered walking through the halls with his head down, holding back tears. And he remembered the day he stood up for himself, not with anger, but with truth. That moment had changed everything. Now, in high school, things were different. Not because the world had suddenly become kind, but because Keanu had changed from within. He walked with quiet confidence. He didn't try to impress anyone. He just stayed true to himself. One day, during an open assembly, the school invited students to come on stage and talk about something meaningful. Keanu had never spoken in front of a crowd before. The idea made his stomach feel tight. But something inside him said, maybe it's time. When his name was called, students looked up in surprise. Keanu, the quiet one? The boy with the silver necklace? He walked onto the stage, slowly but surely. The auditorium was full. All eyes were on him. He stood in front of the microphone, took a small breath, and said, "When I was young, I was bullied for wearing a necklace." A quiet hush fell over the room. "It was a gift from my grandmother," he continued. "People laughed at me. Some tried to take it off. They thought it was strange." He paused. He could see faces in the crowd listening closely, but I didn't stop wearing it. Not because I wanted to fight, but because it meant something. It reminded me of love, of family, of strength. Even when I felt alone, it reminded me who I was. No one moved. No one whispered. They just listened. And over time, Keanu said, I learned something important. When you stay true to yourself, others begin to see the truth too. He looked out at the audience. Students, teachers, even the principal were watching him with quiet respect. This necklace isn't just jewelry, it's my story, and now it's also part of this school's story. He gave a small smile, then stepped away from the microphone. The room stayed silent for a moment, then it happened, clapping, first soft, then louder. Then the whole room filled with applause. Keanu didn't expect it. He wasn't looking for praise. But in that moment, he realized something. People had been listening all along. After the assembly, students came up to him, one by one. "I used to hide my hearing aid." "Not anymore," said one. "My brother gave me a bracelet before he left. For the army, I've kept it in my pocket all year. Tomorrow I'll wear it," said another. "You gave me courage," whispered a girl with tears in her eyes. "Thank you." Keanu smiled at each of them. Not because he wanted to be a hero, but because he understood them. Because he had once stood in their shoes. That night, when he returned home, his grandmother was waiting in the kitchen. She had grown older now, with softer hands and slower steps, but her eyes were still full of love. "How was school today?" she asked. Keanu sat down across from her and took a deep breath. "I told them about the necklace." Her eyes softened even more. "And what did they say?" "They listened," he replied. "Really listened." She reached across the table and gently touched his hand. "I always knew you were brave." Keanu looked down at the necklace, now worn from years of use but still shining gently. "I didn't feel brave back then," he said quietly. "You were," she said. "Because true bravery isn't about fighting others. It's about staying true to yourself even when it's hard." Keanu held those words close to his heart. He would never forget them. He went to bed that night with a deep sense of peace. For the first time, he wasn't just wearing the necklace for himself. He was wearing it for others too. For anyone who had ever felt small, different, or alone. In his heart, he knew this was only the beginning. Years later, Keanu Reeves became a famous actor known all around the world. People watched his movies, followed his interviews, and admired his calm and kind nature. But few knew the real story behind the silver necklace he still wore. It was the same necklace his grandmother gave him when he was a boy. He had never taken it off, not even when the world changed around him. Journalists often asked him about his success, about the big films and the action scenes. But one day, during an interview on a quiet talk show, someone asked a different question. "I've noticed you always wear the same necklace," the host said. "Does it have a story?" Keanu smiled. His fingers gently touched the chain around his neck. "Yes," he said, "it's from my grandmother. She gave it to me when I was little. It means love and strength." He paused for a moment, then added, "I was bullied for wearing it when I was a kid. Some people laughed. Some even tried to pull it off. But I never stopped wearing it. The host leaned forward, curious. Why not? Keanu looked thoughtful. Because it reminded me of who I was. Even when I felt alone, even when people didn't understand me, it helped me stay strong. That short answer became a powerful message. The clip from the interview spread across the internet. People shared it on social media. Fans commented things like, "This is why I admire him," and "True strength doesn't always shout, it just stays steady." Soon, the story of the necklace was everywhere. News articles talked about Keanu's past. Some former classmates even came forward. One admitted, "We made fun of him in school, but he was always calm. Now I see he was stronger than all of us." Others shared their own stories. A girl from another country wrote online, "I used to be ashamed of my headscarf in school. But now, after hearing Keanu's story, I wear it with pride." Another person wrote, "My dad gave me a chain before he passed. I never wore it, but now I will. Thank you, Keanu." Across the world, people began to realize that small things like a necklace, a bracelet, a charm can carry deep meaning. And standing by them, even when others don't understand, can inspire many. Keanu didn't ask for attention. He didn't want to become a hero. He just spoke the truth. But that truth had power. He continued to act in movies, walk red carpets, and work hard. But he also started visiting schools and youth centers. He didn't go there as a celebrity. He went as someone who once sat alone under a tree, holding back tears, wearing a silver necklace that everyone laughed at. He told students, "You don't have to be loud to be strong." Sometimes being yourself is the loudest voice in the room. Children and teens listened to him. Not just because he was famous, but because he was real, honest, gentle. In one school, a girl stood up after his speech. Her voice was shaking. But she said, "I used to hide my locket from my mom. I was scared kids would say I'm old-fashioned. But now, I want to wear it again." Keanu smiled at her and said, "If it means something to you, then it's never old-fashioned." It's powerful. People began calling it the necklace story. Not just because of the chain itself, but because of what it stood for: love, truth, and staying strong when the world tries to pull you down. Years later, when Keanu's grandmother passed away, he stood at her grave with the same necklace around his neck. He whispered, "You were right. It really did protect me." Not from pain or sadness, but from forgetting who he was. He knew now that her gift had not only shaped his life, it had touched the hearts of millions. And so, he kept wearing it. Not for fashion, not for attention, but for the quiet boy he once was, and for everyone still trying to find the courage to be themselves.